Would I be the a-hole for throwing out my in-laws and sister-in-law out of my house? I have been thinking about this all week, but my moral just keep battling with my head on this matter. I, 23 male, married my wife 24 female last year before the whole pandemic fiasco. I was lucky to not get affected by the pandemic and got the order of alternating between working at home for 1 week and coming to the office on the next one, which works fine by me. My sister-in-law, 34 female, and her husband, however, are not so lucky. Both of them got fired from their job because of cost cutting, which forced them to move in with my in-laws. Around June last year, I came home from work to find boxes and bags in the living room and saw my niece and nephews running around the house. My wife pulled me aside and told me that her family got evicted from their home and have nowhere else to go, so she invited them to come stay with us, without my permission. I was furious, but figured that it is not worth fighting over, especially when they are already here, so I let it slide. My wife promised that her sister and brother-in-law would try to find a job as soon as possible, move out with my in-laws, and reimburse me for the food or any other necessities that I provided for them. Months go by, and there's no sign of them even trying. My in-laws also look like they are in no hurry to find some way to move out or find somewhere else to stay. They treat my home like it is their own, since they begin putting away some old decoration on the excuse that it looks tacky, before putting up their own taste of decor. I'm starting to feel like they're just using me for my money, since I'm the one who paid for everything, including phone bills. I gave my wife an emergency card to be used, but she misused it for her family, so I took it back. Earlier this year, I confronted them about when they can move out, and they flipped out on me. My in-laws have the audacity to insult me by saying that my late grandparents literally hand me down everything I have now, and how I should not have any problem with them living with me for the foreseeable future. Just to be clear, the house belongs to my late grandparents, so it means so much to me. They literally put me as the sole inheritor to everything they own, including their savings and life insurances. I got angry and left the house. My wife has been texting me non-stop ever since, telling me to come back and apologize for trying to kick her family out of my house, and how selfish I was for putting money over family. I reminded her of her promise, and she hung up on me. My guilty conscience keeps telling me that I should just let them live there, since they are my wife's family and my in-laws are old now. But I am tired of having to deal with the stress from both my high-stress job and at home. So would I be the a-hole for throwing out my wife's family out of my house? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, your wife is. Don't get me wrong, your in-laws are also, but your wife shoulders the majority of the blame for this situation. That's true. They might be thinking if she doesn't have a problem, then all is good. And what the heck is up with her husband since the house is a woman's domain? Some people think like that, and given they have her decorate, clearly they think if it's okay with her. That's exactly it. She invited them to move in without even discussing it with her partner. She is enabling them to take advantage of her partner by defending their terrible behavior. She is allowing them to treat her partner's family home like it is their own property. Yes, it is also her home, but it is his family's home too. Then treats her partner as if he is being irrational by not being okay with being taken advantage of. She is the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You won't get them to move out, and your wife has shown she will be on their side rather than yours. And you won't get them to move out as long as she's fighting for them. You will either win or lose this. And if you lose this, you lose everything. So kick them out. No dawdling. Get a lawyer, get an eviction notice, get them out. But do not move out yourself, because that can be seen as you abandoning the property, and they could claim squatters' rights. And their daughter might back them on it. The longer you let them stay, the harder it will be legally to make them leave. So start now and go hard. Squatters' rights I've never heard of, so it's probably the US only. We don't really know where Opie lives. We don't have such things here. I could legally report them to the police for trespassing, including my wife, but that would be too cruel, I think. Not the a-hole. When you get married, you create a new family that you prioritize over your existing family. But your wife is choosing to be a sister first and a wife second. Furthermore, she is expecting you to foot the bill for her family's shenanigans without your consent. You have to choose between being your wife's doormat or standing your ground. I would say kick them out as soon as possible and get a lawyer. Your wife's family is so entitled to your stuff, and your wife just does whatever they want. I wouldn't put it past them to entertain the possibility of getting half your possessions in a divorce, since they can't just live there for free anymore. We signed a prenup before marriage, thanks to my coworker's suggestion, so she would get nothing from me unless we had a child together. Wonder if your coworker smelled trouble in the horizon. Everyone tried to warn my sib not to marry a particular person, but sib thought it'd all be okay. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my wife help her sister? My male 31 wife, female 29, has a half-sister that I don't get along with for several reasons. For example, her sister ruined my wife's wedding dress 2 weeks before the wedding after she went to try it on without consent. She stole her car and hid it for days, hoping that she keeps it. She also lied to the family about me being inappropriate towards her. Her mom always backs her up and expects my wife, and now me, to take it. When we announced my wife's pregnancy, her sister lied and announced that she was pregnant, but it was awkward since everyone knew about her inability to have kids with her husband. She moved to our town and she started calling my wife to come help her move stuff into her new place. But the problem is that my wife is 7 months pregnant. She suffers from medical issues and needs to be careful. I told my wife to be careful. She said she had to help, and her sister calls to say she needs help with small boxes, but my wife ends up carrying heavy boxes and furniture. I offer her sister that she hire movers, but she said no need, just a few things, but she's been saying this for days. I offered to help out myself instead of my wife, but she argued with me, telling me to stop trying to control my wife. Yesterday, sister-in-law called her to invite my wife for tea. I went with her although her sister didn't want me. Once we sat down, she asked my wife if she could help her move boxes upstairs. The boxes were big. The staircase was long. I told my wife not to help. I didn't let her. It's not safe and something might go wrong. Her sister blew up at me, telling to stop controlling my wife and tell her what to do. I argued with her about how inconsiderate she was being of my wife and the baby. She just laughed it off, calling me overdramatic and that the baby will be fine. She insisted my wife help her, but I wanted us to leave. Her sister started calling me names while being nice to my wife. I took my wife home, and her stepmom called to berate me for what I said and did earlier. She told me to stay out of my wife's and her sister's relationship, and called me an abusive jerk for trying to stop my wife from helping out her sister. Her dad agreed, and told my wife she needed to stop letting me dictate her interactions with family. My wife defended me, but still didn't see anything wrong in her sister's behavior. In fact, she felt guilty for not helping. I refused to apologize after they pressured me. Not day haul. I recommend r/just no mother-in-law or similar subs, as they can sometimes have good tips for helping spouses recognize that they're being treated like absolute crap. You need to have a very serious but empathetic. She's lived her whole life like this. It's gonna take more than one convo. Series of conversations that explain how inconsiderate and borderline, if not outright, abusive her family is being to her. Then, you guys really need to go no contact. It's not safe for your wife and child now, and it won't be in the future. Remember to support her as best as you can. I hope things work out well for you and your wife, Opie. Best of luck. Not day haul. You weren't raised in this mess, so you can see clearly. Your wife, though, not so much. When you grew up with crazy, you don't really understand what everyone else see until you remove yourself from it. Not day haul. Am I the only one thinking the psycho half-sister is trying to force a miscarriage? You're not alone. Seriously, I thought the exact same thing. I thought that too. Scary. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my stepson he can't stay in my house? My stepson, aged 24, is getting kicked out of his apartment because he doesn't want to pay rent anymore. His roommate found another tenant and asked him to leave. He asked if he could move in with me and his mom, and I said no. Some background. He's a 24-year college graduate who works part-time when he decides to work. I helped pay for his expenses while he attended college, and I feel like with him being 24, it's time to man up and at least attempt to provide for yourself. Me not allowing him to live in my home means he would have to move from Miami to Illinois to live with his dad. He insists that he doesn't want to move, but he also refuses to get a job. Me and his mother try to explain that you have to work in order to get what you want. We've sent him job postings and I wrote his resume. I even added a little fluff to the resume to help him get interviews. He would get interviews. In some cases, make it to drug testing, but would forget to take his test. So needless to say, I'm done trying. Or so I thought. Fast forward to this week. He calls with his sob story about getting kicked out for non-payment. I tell him he can't stay in my house because he refuses to work. I can't imagine working 10 to 12 hours a day, while a healthy college-educated man sleeps till 1 p.m. and parties all night on my dime. So, because I care about him, I offered to buy him a plane ticket back to Illinois. He refused because he doesn't want to leave his car. According to him, he's put too much money in the car and he doesn't want to leave his belongings. Okay, I offered to rent him a U-Haul truck with a trailer as a one-way rental. He refused, saying he doesn't want to drive. According to him, the only option is to live with us. At this point, I'm done. So I flat out say no and get back to Illinois the best you can. Am I the a-hole? By the way, his mother says she agrees with me, but I can tell she wants to let him stay. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I was thinking it would go another way. But no, totally not the a-hole. I hope your wife backs you. If she wants to let him stay, she might be open to manipulation by him. That's the mom in us. Biology won't allow us to let our offspring starve and fail, even if it's because this bird is too lazy to go get the worm. I understand the sentiment perfectly, but I'm gonna push mine to fly away regardless. It's the only way they learn how to fly. I like the empty nest. There's less crap on the floor. If he moved in with you, you'll have to get eviction papers and police to drag him out. You know it. Even his mother knows it. You gave him options, and he rejected them all. One last thing, a final offer, a gas card with enough money on it to drive his car to Illinois. Not the a-hole. I think once he's sleeping in his precious car and eating at the local soup kitchen, he'll get the message that no one but himself is going to help him. But the moment they let him in, he's going to be like a barnacle. Not the a-hole. Once he's in, he's there for good. You've offered him all the help he needs to rectify his homeless situation. Does mom perchance give him money that dad wouldn't? Yes, she spoils him. His dad already said he's got 30 days to get a job if he comes. And there it is. Of course, he wants to stay where he can mooch off mom. Mom agrees with you that he should live with dad, but she's the very reason he doesn't want to. Of course, it might be fraught with danger telling her this. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents to ask for permission when coming to my house? A little context. I, 22 female, just graduated from uni and had to move back home with my parents because of the pandemic. Our house has 2 stories. The ground level is getting remodeled, so my parents can move downstairs and I get to live upstairs alone. Now, the entire property legally is under my name. That was my biological mother's decision. She died of cancer when I was 1 and my dad remarried when I was 3. To go to me instead of my 2 older brothers who are now all moved out and have their own separate lives. When I moved back home, I asked my parents for some financial help with bills and utilities because I was unable to find a job that would pay enough to support all expenses. They told me they would support me for 2 years until the other house is done being built and until I find a good enough job. Now, yesterday, I found out that once my parents move out from my house upstairs to move to their house downstairs, they intend to keep coming in and out of my house as they please, even when I'm not at home. I mean, full-on unlock the door, barge in uninvited, take what they want whenever they want without asking for my permission, or letting me know they took something. I told them that they aren't allowed to do that, and that they should inform me if they will be coming over, or if they want to get something from my house when I'm not at home. My mom, my stepmom, then got incredibly angry. Kept saying that I'm being ungrateful and I'm overstepping my boundaries, and that since they help me financially, they have every right to do that. I keep insisting that I am not being ungrateful and that this is a matter of respect and boundaries. I don't intend on coming to their house without permission, and neither should they. My mom has a bad habit of constantly going through my stuff, even my phone before I put a password on, and coming into my room without knocking. She can be very controlling, and this is exactly what I feared would happen if I decided to move back home to my home country, which I had to do because of the pandemic. I told her that if they intend to do that, then I will change the locks to the house doors. She got very upset and said that I'm being disrespectful, that she's hurt, and that she will stop supporting me. She also said that it's up to my dad now to choose what to do about this. So, am I the a-hole for threatening to change the locks and prohibiting them from coming to my house even though they helped me financially? Not the a-hole. Your mom is forcing this situation by not respecting your boundaries. She needs to understand that relationships with adult children are not the same as relationships with young ones. Good luck. Thank you. You were right about the relationships part. It can be hard sometimes to accept that, I guess. Not the a-hole. If your name is on the title, tell her if she removes financial contributions, you'll evict them. That should shut her up. Thank you for the reply. I don't think I'd like to be that harsh, to be honest, as they're still my parents, and I would hate myself if I did something like that. But I'm considering renting out my portion of the space and moving out to a smaller flat. You need to be prepared to do this. Is there a rental agreement in place, or are they just going to be living rent-free? I know they are your parents, but you should seriously consider drafting up some legal agreement so everyone is clear on expectations and what happens should you decide to move, etc. I mean, what's going to happen if you marry and have children? Will your place be big enough? If you want to move and sell this place and there's no rental/agreement in place, things are going to get very messy. I honestly did not even consider all of that. Usually, we just fight our way through conversations like that. But genuinely, this has been one of the most enlightening comments till now, so thanks for bringing this to my attention. I didn't even consider drafting a legal document like that, but I think it might be of real help. Thank you.